Here's my pick'ems for the playoffs of Masters Toronto. We'll start off with G-Li Gaming versus Sentinels. And I'm going to pick Sentinels because I think that the problem with XLG is that they just have the problem they had to replace you going into this tournament. And then they've got this player who's called Midi. And the problem is with this player is that we don't really know how adaptable he is overall for like their rosters. Like he was playing a lot of Teo when the Teo meta was here, but the Teo meta is not here anymore. So we don't really know what he's going to be kind of doing on this roster, like where he's going to slot in. And it might be problematic for XLG because of just how little prep time they've actually had to kind of fit this player into the roster. And then also probably prep for Sentinels. They did pick Sentinels, and the reason why they picked Sentinels is like they just wanted to play Sentinels. Whether that means that they've prepared specifically for them, or not, or they just want to play Sentinels, we don't really know. Next is G2 versus Paper X, and honestly, I think it's pretty self-explanatory that I go with G2 here. I think G2 kind of match up very well to Paper X. They tend to be a very good team that's good at stifling aggression, and Paper X are like a very aggressive overall team. So I think it makes a lot of sense for G2 to pick Paper X and to play well into Paper X. Next is RRQ versus Wolves, and I think that Wolves will actually win this. I think that they've got the train rolling. I do think RRQ could have had enough prep time to kind of deal with what Wolves is going to throw at them, but I also think that Wolves is going to throw some curveballs RRQ's way as well. We might even see this type of upset, but this is the only upset I'm going to go with in this pick'ems, I think, or at least as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, Fnatic versus Gen G. I think I'm going to pick Fnatic here because I believe that Fnatic are going to be they're going to have a lot of prep time and they're going to be very prepared for what Gen G is going to throw at them. I think this is definitely the closest game in the upper quarterfinals. It could definitely go Gen G's way. I think when it does go Gen G's way, it's going to be because of when the strats like meet, they're going to meet fairly evenly, and there's going to be a lot of things going wrong for both teams. But I think that Gen G overall are a better mechanical team overall individually, and I think that when it comes down to it, you do need to convert on your strategies mechanically, and I think Gen G have more capacity to do that, very, very slightly compared to Fnatic. So I would favour Gen G in other circumstances, because I imagine Fnatic will have a lot of anti-stratting, because Fnatic haven't played before. Gen G don't really have much in the way of anti-stratting to do, or at least they don't have as much as they would want to, and Fnatic are a very good prep team, so I do imagine Fnatic are going to have some answers to a lot of Gen G's strategies that made them look so strong in the previous round during the Swiss stage. So next is XLG versus Paper X, and I'm going to go with Paper X here. I think that once again, I think it's the same problem. I think XLG are just going to have trouble with one less player than they usually had. It might not be as much of a problem, and I do think this map as well is going to be close. I think XLG Sentinels is going to be close. I think XLG Paper X is also going to be close, but I think Paper X will come out on top. RRQ versus Gen G. It feels weird saying that RRQ are going to lose this one. But I genuinely think that Gen G are going to be... Actually, I don't know, actually. This is probably the hardest one now that I've made in the pick'ems. I'm going to say that Gen G are going to win this because I think they've got like more of a warm-up going in. And while they might have lost some momentum here, I think that RRQ are going to like lose momentum versus Wolves. So, or like lose a lot of their confidence in the Wolves game and then probably not bounce back well enough for Gen G. I think that's what I'm going to go with. Then we've got Sentinels versus G2. I think I'm going to favour G2 here. I think that G2 are just generally a better team than Sentinels. Doesn't mean that Sentinels can't win though. I think Sentinels do have the capacity to win versus G2. We'll just have to see it. I think it's just more likely, percentage-wise, that G2 wins. Wolves versus Fnatic. I think this is where the Wolves train ends. I think Fnatic are going to have the upper hand against Wolves as like a really strong prep team. But I don't really know. Maybe the Wolves do actually end up upsetting again, but I'm going to go with Fnatic. Then we've got Wolves versus Paper X, and I think that Paper X will end up winning this one versus Wolves. And then we've got Sentinels versus Gen G, and I think that this is going to be a close one, but I do favour Gen G. I think Gen G are going to be like the dark horse in the losers bracket that will probably end up going all the way through to the lower finals. Next is upper final, G2 versus Fnatic. This is going to be obviously this is going to be a banger game, but like I think it's going to be more of a banger game than it was previously because of the previous games. There's going to be a lot of previous material for both teams to look at to then anti-strat and to do things with, and both teams are really strong mechanically, so we'll just have to see how things go, but I think Gen G will end up winning. G2 Esports versus Fnatic. So I think this is going to be really close, but I'm going to favour G2. I think G2 are probably the favourites, well, they are the favourites of the tournament, and I think that this is probably the time they're going to win. So we'll see what happens, but I think it's going to be like this, and then I think it's going to be Gen G's revenge in the lower finals versus Fnatic. And then I think it's going to be G2 that finally win a Masters. Yeah, so I think that G2 are going to win. I think that it's going to be close. Like, I think a majority of these games are going to be close. Even the Wolves games, I think the Zli games, even though they're going to bomb out twice, even the RRQ games, I think they're going to all be close. I think this is one of the hardest playoffs we've had to like predict, because I feel like it's really hard to put one team above the other, like in such an emphatic way. Because I think Wolves have like showed up really well. I think there's honestly a lot of credit to that is honestly at Wolves, where they've been like the crazy underdog, and like you can't count them out. You can't count out the weakest team in this playoffs. And I think my Pickems kind of show that as well with them winning versus RRQ. I would love to know what you guys think about the Pickems, my Pickems, and also your Pickems, who you predicted to win, who you predicted in some of these matchups. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next one.